Hi everybody, welcome to episode 63 of the Discussion 5. That's right, we're back. Brothers of Discussion are here to talk to you about the 5 most pressing matters for the Detroit Red Wings, kinda. Considering there's not much news, there'll be plenty of news next week. Alright, we'll have our draft lottery in.
We're going to talk about pick number 4.
Woo! Can't wait for pick number 4. Alright. So today, like always, we're going to continue the conversation on our redrafting of the NHL's past NHL Draft, so that we can figure out like what's going on, what chances do the Red Wings actually have of landing, as Steve Yzerman put, 1 or 2 picks out of every draft over the next few years. We'll hopefully keep our fingers crossed. We'll go over today that 2005 NHL Draft. On top of that, we've got some Datsyuk news and a couple of quick hits in regards
Big news for Datsyuk.
General NHL conversation. But before we do that, don't forget to check out the Brothers of Discussion at bodpodcast.com and brothersofdiscussion.com. You can also find us on Twitter for this particular show at BOD Hockey. For our pro wrestling show, you can find us on Twitter at BOD Podcast. So if you're looking for some pro wrestling coverage, check us out there. Find us on Instagram with a joint account that covers both the NHL and pro wrestling. It's at brothers_of_discussion. Same thing for our YouTube channel. Both shows go up there on a weekly basis. That's just the Brothers of Discussion on YouTube. And the best thing you can do to help out the Brothers of Discussion is head on over either to YouTube and subscribe, or go on over to Apple Podcasts, subscribe, rate, and review for us. We would greatly appreciate it. All comments are more than welcome. We like to learn, see what everybody's thinking about the Brothers of Discussion content, see what we can do to improve here a little bit. But, Mike, easiest way to transition into what we're going to talk about today. Oh, real quick, if you need some CBD products, if you are in need, we have a link at the top of our website, bodpodcast.com or brothersofdiscussion.com, whichever one you want to pick. Right at the top bar, you can click on that sucker. It's going to take you straight to CBD Medic. Use promo code BODPodcast. You're going to get 2 products and a third one for free. So you buy 2, get 1 free. That's what the promo code does. But if you make that purchase using that link, we get commission on that sale. So, not saying go there and buy things you don't need. I'm saying that if you need your CBD products, go that route, and you're going to help out the Brothers of Discussion. Does a great deal of good, and we can continue to make our show better, as we've tried to do. And like I mentioned on the Pro Wrestling Show, Mike, I've got some things in the works. So hopefully, with the new stuff heading down to Matt's house in Michigan, we'll be looking prettier sooner rather than later. All right, so speaking of looking pretty...
Oh, yeah.
Let me point out. I can't do it. This shoulder. There we go. There he is. Look at that. Mike, Pavel Datsyuk's in national news. It's insane to me.
He's clearly a big fan of 28 Days Later, man. That's what we're learning.
Pavel Datsyuk is either held up in a monastery or at home at his cottage with his family. So let's give a little background on this.
Here we go.
This is the report that came out, that Pavel Datsyuk is reportedly among those holed up at a Russian monastery where a priest has seized control and guarded the area with Cossacks after being told to stop services due to COVID-19 conspiracy beliefs. Now, first of all, Cossacks are a group of predominantly East Slavic-speaking Orthodox Christian people who became known as members of a democratic, self-governing, semi-military community. So, basically, Mike, this is a monastery guarded by soldiers. And the reason being is this gentleman, where's his name? Sergius was reportedly banned from conducting religious duties because of his claims that COVID-19 outbreak was a pseudo-pandemic and that this is being used as an excuse to microchip the public. So you feel a tickle in your throat, you get a fever, you go to the hospital, boom, you get a chip. It makes sense to me. Oh man, I gotta say, I gotta go talk to my wife, who's a doctor, and let her know, like, I'm on to you. We know.
I'm always stunned to read about these kind of people, and like just to find out Sergius has an iPhone. Because you know what? They don't need to put the microchip in you. It's literally in your hand. And it just broadcasts everything you like all the time. You're in it. You're in the system. I'm sorry, Sergius. Unless you have never touched a cell phone in your life, you're part of this now. So I never know where these people are coming from. Matt?
Well, if you look at Sergius, he definitely, he's got the look of an ancient human being from different times. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have a phone, to be completely honest. He's a cookie looking cat. But here, the other part of this, Mike, to continue the story. So obviously there's two sides of this. Dan Milstein, Pavel Datsyuk's agent, tweets out Pavel is at home with his family, and then Mike, a video of Pavel exercising, and it's actually him chopping wood. Just one, and then that's the video. It's a 2 second long video on Twitter, and Pavel's back, not even his face. And this is what.
So the conspiracy theories are out there. Where's his face? We just see some guy chopping wood. We don't know who that is.
I think it's so funny that his agent is like, no, see, it's fine. Let me do this 2 second video.
Okay, so the video could have been like, 3 seconds where we just, pan over and see Pavel give a reassuring thumbs up.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, one of Pavel's more notable physical traits is his oddly curved spine when he was on the ice. So I got to think that if they couldn't show Pavel's face, there's something about his hulking back.
Yeah.
It's kind of like who was that goofy swimmer for the Olympics? That Michael with the underbite. What was his name?
Does Phelps have a weird body?
Phelps. Yeah. Well, he has a body like he designed it, his musculature, to be good at swimming, and Pavel kind of has it to be hunched over a hockey stick. So I will say that if you're gonna take one physical attribute of Pavel, and for some reason his face is not an option.
Yeah.
Number 2 would probably be his back.
No, I was prepared to make that joke that it's unmistaken. Like you can't make any mistake looking at this video. It's Pavel Datsyuk. But Mike, I don't know if the better question is, what do you think? What do you think is more true here, especially based on the Dan Milstein video? Is it Steen? Milstein.
Milstein, yeah.
Do you believe one or the other, or is the better question, is Pavel Datsyuk actually chopping wood for this monastery that obviously, with soldiers hanging out outside, it might not have electricity, so they got to keep warm somehow. I feel like that is what was actually uncovered in the release of this video, that Pavel's at work for this monastery, and for I don't know if you call him priest or Father Sergius, but that's what I'm gathering from this video. I think undoubtedly that Pavel Datsyuk is holed up in this monastery after seeing that video. I was one at first that said, there's the tweet. There's the one that says that Pavel Datsyuk's at his house. But then when you see a video of Pavel with his back turned to the camera for 2 seconds chopping one piece of wood, I don't know how you look at that video and think anything else, but Pavel Datsyuk is most definitely holed up in that monastery.
That's definitely Pavel Datsyuk. That's definitely him safe with his family. I wouldn't have leapt to that conclusion. It reminds me of that video of Hugh Jackman when he's doing the sound effects for Wolverine in the Logan movie.
Yeah.
And like doing all that. But then they skip the part where he turns and goes, hi. So all we see is Datsyuk with an axe with all these, poor dead trees. He's already, just chopped them all in half. But we don't get the reassurance at the end that he's just an okay human being.
Also,
we skip that part. Yeah.
Is it possible that he's already been microchipped, but by the monastery? So now he's just programmed to work. Going back to the X-Men movies, when Nightcrawler was in X2, and he was getting those drops on the back of his neck, and then he'd go and try and kill the president. Is that what we're seeing happen now with Pavel Datsyuk? I think that question needs to be asked to the right people. And damn it, Milstein, if you're not giving us that answer, piece of garbage. He's taking video of a pre-programmed Pavel Datsyuk who hasn't moved from that spot of chopping wood for 6 days.
Yeah. Yeah, if the video is longer than that, it's just more wood being chopped. There's not like a human moment of Pavel smiling,
the rest,
collecting wood.
When the video goes to 5 and 6 seconds, the camera pans and you just see this huge pile of wood that's being turned into like a cabin or something behind Pavel. All right, well, here's the thing. There isn't a lot we can do but make jokes.
Last joke, by the way. Dan Milstein, it's not even a joke, just an observation. The Twitter feed of this reassurance that Pavel is definitely a human, he's definitely okay. His agent's Twitter handle is @HockeyAgent1.
Absolutely, yeah. Because, hockey agent was taken.
This guy was really on the ball when Twitter came into being. Why pick my name when I could be Hockey Agent 1? But yeah, go ahead.
Why does he need a Twitter account? I riddle me that, Batman.
I never would have verified that account if I was Twitter. Go ahead.
All right, Mike. We don't have too much to talk about, so I thought I'd give a quick recap before we jump into.
Because these rules do get a little crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So the draft lottery is coming up. This episode's releasing on Monday before the draft lottery, which is this Friday. Unfortunately, on a very close. Are you supposed to? You're not supposed to say when people's birthdays are. I'll just say somebody I know. Their birthday may or may not be that day, and I may or may not ruin their day based on how that draft lottery turns out. But anyway, it's this Friday. Mike, we can't go past 4. We have an 18.5% chance of landing the first pick. We actually have, I think, a 50% chance of landing the top 2 picks. Or, I'm sorry, the
top
number
3?
2 pick. So
I thought we have a 50% shot at getting either 4 or the other 3. Damn it.
And don't forget, this is going to be phase 1 of the draft. Since there is, I believe, it's 8 teams that are still considered playoff teams right now. If they actually end up getting one of the top 3 picks, which is how the draft lottery works, they're going to do a lottery for the first pick, then the second pick, then the third pick, and then, of course, when they do the little TV show about it, they're going to go in reverse order and tell you who got what. But if one of the playoff teams lands one of those top 3 picks, then they're going to do a phase 2 draft, which is going to be after the playoffs are done. Which, Mike, this would have been taken care of if we just waited till after the playoffs to do the draft lottery. Then we wouldn't even need to be talking right now. Like, easy solution, right?
Yes, all done.
Do the draft lottery after the playoffs. That seems pretty easy to me. Or do
The fans need something.
Do it after they do the 5-game.
God, I can't wait to see the television ratings for this NFL draft. God, I'm sorry. I'm so discombobulated by this. Go ahead.
The NHL, we're handing out content. Woo! First, we're gonna give a bunch of players COVID, so that gives you content for this week, and then next week is the draft lottery. All right, so we probably should have mentioned all the players, including Austin Matthews, that have tested positive for COVID. Anyway, so phase 2, I don't believe they have an actual date for that, and then of course the draft will come after all this is completed, including if these playoffs ever start. But Mike, Mr. Commitment himself, with a groundbreaking quote. Steve Yzerman says, we're excited about it. We'd love to get the highest pick we possibly can. And we're confident where we're picking, we're going to be happy with the player we get. So the Ottawa Senators came out and said, we are stacked. We are locked and loaded for this draft. This is one of the best drafts ever. We're going to come out of here as a completely different team. And Steve's just like, yeah, I mean, even if it's 4, I guess I'll still be happy. I
think Steve should have said, I've been listening to the Discussion 5, and I've been noticing that, a few teams kind of get some really nice gifts in a row. They got to tank, and Chicago really got rewarded. Pittsburgh really got rewarded. Washington got rewarded. And not just like 1 year in a row, like 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row. Maybe it could be our turn. How about that? We've been sucking nuts for quite a few seasons now. I'm a new GM. I could really use a boost. How about, when's it going to be our turn? Huh? How about that?
You know what I'd really love? Like, where, like, the NHL's already conducted the draft lottery. And after all these teams bitched about, like, you can't give the Red Wings a 50% chance at the number 1 pick and then a guaranteed top 2, for them to just go, all right, no, you're right, let's not do that. And then they're just writing in Detroit Red Wings number 1 pick. Oh, look, we did it your way. Look what happened. No, I mean, I doubt that the NHL is going to pick us. I think they're hoping that, the Maple Leafs get knocked out so they can get another top draft pick, sell some more jerseys that are blue. Anyway, what I do want to talk about.
I do love those jerseys. I don't have a hockey. The last hockey jersey I had was I think it was Osgood, I want to say.
Wow.
But yeah, it's been a minute. I just don't buy jerseys anymore. I do kind of want a Maple Leafs jersey. I mean, after we talk about something that happens in this draft, probably change that decision. But go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to mention for our next episode, we're going to highlight the possibilities for the Detroit Red Wings draft, because we're pretty sure that we're going to land that 4th pick. So we're gonna dissect the top. We'll go to like 6 guys, maybe 7. But what I'm gonna do, since I am a huge Chell fan, as the kids call it, Chell 20. I've been playing NHL for like 20 straight years.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say that like Detroit sports has kind of been in the toilet for a while. Like collectively, all the teams have been poopy: Pistons, Wings, Tigers, and Lions. And the Tigers just secured Torkelson, who is allegedly the top power hitter that you could have gotten this year. There's maybe a few other 5-tool guys, but is it possible that the Red Wings and the Pistons also get to draft that high?
I mean,
I don't know if I hope we did. Like, I just hope we didn't blow our wad, on a hitter that we're not going to see for 4 to 5 years as he toils away in double and triple A.
Yeah,
because the Pistons are almost guaranteed a top 5 pick. And then the Red Wings.
No, I'm glad you ruined my momentum and talking about next week's episode to say that. I'm glad you brought up something that barely parallels what we're talking. No, so what we're gonna do, since I've been playing NHL since 2000. Or maybe 2002 was like that. Anyway, we've got 5 seasons.
Since 1994.
Huh?
What about 1994? NHL 94. Come on.
Okay.
Yeah, Pavel Bure was the greatest player in NHL history.
Well, I'm talking about consecutive years that I still have discs at my house.
I think Gretzky was in there as player number 99 because they didn't have the rights to get Gretzky's name.
Was that in 94 that they still didn't have the rights? I thought that was one of the big... I thought that's how they juiced it up.
I don't think so, because I don't think he was on the cover.
He had to
we're gonna have to do a deep dive here.
Yeah.
Matt, continue what you were saying.
One of these days...
I'm pretty sure it was Pavel Bure or bust. That's how you played that game.
All right. Well, I'm finally going to finish my statement here. Since I've been playing... NHL game forever, and now, God, I don't even give a fuck anymore. I've played 5 seasons with this year's draft in the game, so we're gonna, since we don't scout, we don't watch these junior high. I bet none of you are watching, the last 200 games for these kids. So here's what we're gonna do: we're gonna take a perfect simulation that the EA Sports game has created. We're going to take a look at where those players are now. How many Stanley Cups have they won? I'll give you a hint here for Lafreniere. The Red Wings drafted him. I'm playing as the Red Wings, so it's been 5 years. He might have 5 Stanley Cup rings. I'm just saying. So we'll see the overall of these other players, see how EA Sports sees how they're rolling, and then we'll make our picks based off what EA Sports simulation says we should do. So I thought that would be fun to kind of go through that, show their career stats so far, and see which direction should the Red Wings actually go. It'll be way more fun if we get the fourth pick instead of the first pick. But Mike?
Yeah. It looks like there was a Gretzky, by the way, because if you look up images of NHL 94 and Gretzky, people would make it their life's goal to make him bleed on the ice. So his little avatar is face down with a pool of blood. It's very graphic, but he was in the game. Yes.
He was in the game. Very nice, Mike. I love just like it's. All right, Mike. We're in the game of shaving our pubes, and we do it with our good friends from Manscaped. What a transition that was. Hit that one right on the nose. But you're not going to hit it on the head, because you've got a precision tool in Manscaped. You know what? I'm such a doofus. I'm going to have to pull up my notes here, because the one thing I can comment on is how squeaky clean my area gets. But the things I can't remember are like how strong the motor is and stuff like that. But Mike, we've been talking about it for weeks, and that's because we think that this is the tool for all of our listeners. All of our listeners. All of our listeners.
All of them.
All of them. Mike, you've got what do we got here? We've got it's the 3.0. Okay, so we've gone through two different generations of this lawnmower thing. When I tried it, Mike, and it's just been a constant game of like the weekly game of locking the doors and having my 90 minutes because the battery lasts so long. Toiling away in my restroom. It's a blast. Millions of balls are about to be nick-free thanks to Manscaped's advanced skin-safe technology. Accidents are finally a thing in the past. When we tell you it's premium, we mean it. It is premium. Like I mentioned, that 90-minute battery, you've got the LED light. And as we like to say, Mike, shine in that light where the sun don't shine. They say the sun don't shine there for a reason. But that LED light is going to help you catch everything. The 7,000 RPM motor, charging stand so that you can show off that you're nice and crisp and clean down there. It's got that nice little USB port. We all have USB cables hanging around the house everywhere. So get her done there. If you're listening to me speak right now, that means you are one of the first people to hear about it. So you want to go over to manscaped.com. Use promo code THPN. That is for the Hockey Podcast Network. That gets you 20% off and free shipping. 20% off and free shipping with promo code THPN at manscaped.com. You get the Lawnmower 3.0 package. You will not be disappointed, and you will be nick-free. All right, Mike. Let's jump into the 2005 NHL Draft, where finally, Mike, the NHL, their plan is complete. Pittsburgh Penguins draft Marc-Andre Fleury, Kenny Malkin,
just like,
and now
it better fucking be us.
Sidney Crosby. Mike, you said Sidney Crosby is the bomb.com. I love that. Also, I don't know if that's been used since 2005. But, Mike, as the story goes, the Pittsburgh Penguins are ready to move. They're ready to get out of Dodge.
Yes.
Let's get out of Pittsburgh. Place is a dump. We don't need to be in a steel town trying to sell hockey that nobody cares about. And lo and behold, the 3 straight drafts, the Pittsburgh Penguins walk away with, I mean, this'll be the dynasty maker. We talked about it in the last couple episodes. So I think it's fair to say that dynasty of what it was for like in the NFL, in the 70s and the 80s, I think you define it differently now for a sport like the NHL because as much as the Red Wings suck this year, this is the league with probably the most parity, and any team can win that Stanley Cup every year. Well, at least for all the playoff teams, right? But anyway, this is a parity league, and this, for the NHL, is a dynasty. You've got the Stanley Cups to hold on to, and the years of being Stanley Cup contenders. But I'm just saying that difference between like having a team win 6 championships in a row, like the Steelers, right? They won a bunch in a row. Terry Bradshaw years. I don't know NFL trivia. The Steelers were good at one point, right? There's Terry Bradshaw. There was
they had Jerome Bettis. They won a Super Bowl.
Oh wait, the catch was the Niners. What was the?
And then Mike Tomlin. Yeah.
There was that. There was the batted ball, and then the guy grabbed it right before it touched the ground.
I'll always admire Pittsburgh for having synchronized all the colors of their teams. They're all black and yellow. I thought that was pretty cool. But Mike,
I mean, if you had to pick of all the Detroit teams, which colors to spread across the 3 other sports leagues, which team would you pick?
It would definitely not be Honolulu blue and silver. Let me immediately eliminate that as a contender.
I'm going to take that as an answer. That's good enough for me. I think everybody knows I'm picking red and white because I just couldn't live without all my red and white gear that I'm surrounded by in my house.
It's a crisp red. I really like it. That Tiger combination is, I don't know, it's pretty iconic though. That's a tough one. It'll probably be the Red Wings. I think that it's just ranked, almost everybody. It's a consensus. It's like one of the best jerseys across all sports. But
now, what if it was the teal and yellow?
Ooh, yeah.
Detroit Pistons.
That really pops on the ice, Matt.
Yeah. Remember the Detroit Vipers that were holding up at the Palace?
Yeah, they were there for a cup of coffee.
I remember the videos when you'd walk around the Palace for the Detroit Vipers, where it was a montage of guys in fights, and it wasn't just the fights. They would show the aftermath to try and sell the sport, and it was just blood just gushing down people's faces. And I remember, like, as a little kid going, I don't think I should be watching this. It was too much for me. All right. Where were we? 2005 draft. All right. Yeah, Sidney Crosby's great. We know. The Penguins are going to be great. They're going to win their first cup against, I don't really remember. Anyway. It was us. You were supposed to laugh harder. Okay. Is this right? 12 played, 800 plus games. And we've got, or is that from the other notes?
Oh, it's from the other note.
I knew it. God damn it. Well, we've got 15, actually, for this one. Played 800 plus games. And then we've got 3 guys playing 1,000. And Crosby, with all of his injuries, is going to get there. So, again, I think we've talked in the last couple of drafts. We should probably retire this because it's going to be hard to measure against previous seasons, only because guys haven't finished their career yet. So we'll go another year, and they're going to have even less games played, and then even less games played. So this one's just about made its run its course.
Yeah, I was going to do one quick thing, one little nugget, because we kind of ran away from Crosby for a second. Do you know that? I think you already know the reason why, but fun fact: he was not Rookie of the Year. Do you know who was Rookie of the Year in 2005?
Tell us.
Ovechkin.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that makes I guess we're forgetting. We don't even have.
Yeah, we got to
let that draft pick come in place in hockey too.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy.
I love that actually.
Yeah.
Like the first, the war between Ovechkin and Crosby ends with an Ovechkin win. That's actually, I like that stat. That's pretty fun. Yeah. Fuck you, Crosby. Anything to.
Just stick it in.
Yeah.
There we go.
Also, all those Pittsburgh Penguins fans. I'm sure they were pretty angry about that. All right. So, do we want to jump into, Mike, our scouting department winners and losers?
Let's do it. I think off the bat, you absolutely get to say Pittsburgh for drafting somebody who's easily going to be, in the Hall of Fame, one of the greatest goal scorers ever. We don't really make these kind of players anymore where they're over a point a game. Was he a 3-time Stanley Cup winner? Fresh out of the gate and all the way up through this season, just excellence. You can trash his mustache if you want. You can trash, the way they tried to overhype him. But for a league that is so bad at marketing players, I think for them to actually get Sid the Kid rolling and sell him as like one of the faces of the league, and he, definitely met or exceeded, many of those expectations. I wouldn't go to the lengths to call him like a LeBron of the NHL, but I think he's definitely one of the names you could just say and people know you're talking about an excellent hockey forward.
Why not?
I think only because we don't get to see as much of his public persona because the NHL still doesn't do a great job of that. But
okay, I can see that from.
But from a talent perspective, easily one of the best players we've ever seen. And he had some historically great clashes with the Red Wings in that 08-09. Those two Stanley Cup finals were just super duper entertaining, even though only one of them was as fun as the other. But I mean, this is a guy who's just up there for every major award every season. And then that apex, Matt, 36 goals, 84 assists in his second season, 120 motherfucking points. Jesus Christ. You really can't ask for much more from, a top pick like that. If Alexei Lafreniere can get to, 70% of that, I think Red Wings fans would just be doing cartwheels and parades down the street, for, my God, how long has he been with the Penguins now? Is that 14, 15 years? Jesus. Yeah. Woo!
So
accolades. There's
as much as everybody listening to a Red Wings podcast wants to hear us gush about Sidney Crosby, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Kings because they lock up Anze Kopitar and Jonathan Quick. And, I mean, in this same draft, you've got Carey Price being drafted. But, if I had to pick the better career, it's easily Jonathan Quick. And right now, Quick has become a joke because he's struggled so much to stay at where he was. I would even argue take out those regular seasons and just say stay at where he was when he was shutting out consecutive games and playoffs and going 4-game sweeps for round after round for the LA Kings. But Kings draft Jonathan Quick, and they don't know that they're getting who's ultimately going to be one of the best playoff performing goaltenders and help the Kings become one of those teams of the decade on top with the Penguins, and it's not a first pick. The Penguins built their team with 3 top 2 picks, and the Kings luck out with Jonathan Quick actually working. So I think it was pick 72, and I wanted to bring up the point as well because there's constant arguments on Twitter about should you draft a goalie in the first round or even in the top 10, and we do have some potential stardom, at least what the scouts say for goaltending this year. But I mean, even when we look at this season, like, would you be happy, Mike, if we collected the exact replica of Carey Price in this year's draft at pick numbers? Let's say if we get pick number 1, we know where we're going. But right. The Red Wings do need goaltending for the future. If we had pick number 4, are you going to be happy if we get Carey Price at number 4? Looking back at what he's done in his career and how much his salary affects the Montreal Canadiens. I'm trying not to lead the witness, but Mike, look at all the bullshit he's done and how much money it costs to have Carey Price. You want that shit?
Hell no.
Yeah.
You touched on one player for the Kings. It's Kopitar for me. I think you could almost make the argument he's a Los Angeles Pavel Datsyuk. The way he's up there for Lady Bings, Selkies, and he's still a dude getting basically a point a game. He's there for their Stanley Cup victories. Obviously, with a certain goaltender, behind him and Quick. Just a guy that I think. One thing I wanted to piggyback, watching Washington Pittsburgh, and we're going to see the Blackhawks kind of exploit tanking, and taking advantage of getting the first couple picks. The Kings didn't quite have that advantage. They had to rely a little bit more on, some good scouting.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're just barely in the top 10, or, like in this situation, Quick was all the way at like pick 73. That's you want to have that level of, that kind of eye for talent. And so I just want to, make sure we're properly crediting this pick as well. So good job by you.
Now's a good time to talk about the Good Boy Award, which is my favorite to hand out, because we're just going to go over all the same names we just talked about. So this is guys that were actually successful and then stuck around with one team. So that's why they're the Good Boy. So obviously we come right back to Anze Kopitar and Jonathan Quick are up there. Carey Price, I don't know how you walk away from the money that he was offered. Sidney Crosby, obviously. I also threw Chris Letang on there. I thought that was kind of a nice...
Yeah, I forgot to throw him in for Pittsburgh doing a good job.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic pickup. A name that, just like... as Red Wings fans go for playing the Pittsburgh Penguins, I mean, a name that, tears at your eardrums when you hear it, same as Crosby, only because it's a name, even though it's synonymous with our Stanley Cup win, it's also with our Stanley Cup loss, and then seasons after that of, losing to the Penguins, and now they're still competitive, and we are dog shit. So, definitely got to throw Letang in there for sticking around with Pittsburgh, too.
We have another one of our awards here, Matt. Our Datsyuk Diamond in the Rough winner. There's a little debate about including him, but I mean, he's a winner. He still had, point every other game. That's Patrick Hornquist. Guy got a couple cups with those goddamn Penguins. But I mean,
never
you can't
ends this draft.
I know. A guy, definitely a lot of consistency, where you're basically going 8 straight seasons with between 53 and 48 points. So that's something I don't think anyone would be upset about to have on their squad. But one other award that I'm really bummed, Matt, because when we started doing this, we were blown away to see that Yuri Depita, drafted at the ripe age of 31. This is the first year where we don't have anybody drafted over the age of 20. So
everybody's 18, 19, and 20.
Rest in peace. Those weird draft picks of guys who
they were ready to play.
They could already rent cars.
Yeah,
none of these players can drink. They can't rent cars. That's over.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think going forward, this we're gonna have to cross off the Yuri Depita award.
We're gonna double check. I'm not gonna let this die, but it looks like finally, the NHL figured out to stop drafting all these fucking old people. So
who, again, I'll say they're ready to go. They can rent a car and they could probably skate on a nice rink. All right, so just real quick, Mike, do you want to hit us up with the scouting department losers? Because I really like the research you did.
Yeah, there's 2 of them. One is Florida, who, they've been really doing a bad job with COVID, and they did a really bad in the 05 NHL Draft.
As we know,
what an equation. They definitely,
the front office of the Florida Panthers is also in charge of the state of Florida.
I wouldn't be surprised to learn that they did have something with the Floridian policy of COVID. They got a whopping 43 man games out of that. Rough. But, Matt, I still think that's not quite as bad as the Toronto Maple Leafs, who... It seems like historically they've just never been able to find a goalie. Matt, they'll make the argument that their boy Freddie is doing okay, but and they had Cujo, but this was the year that they drafted Tuukka Rask and gave up on him for Andrew Raycroft, who admittedly, was not horrible in subsequent seasons, right? But for the Leafs, Raycroft played one healthy season, and then the next year he played 19 games. Then he was gone. And apparently, the justification from the great minds in Toronto was that we we didn't want to keep Rask and our other hot prospect goaltender because who needs two hot prospects when we could have a WWE now and a WWE forever, right? So we got our WWE now in Raycroft, and our forever was a guy named Pogie. Now, is that fun to say? Yes, it is. Did he ever make it in the NHL? No. He played 7 games.
Woo!
He's in the KHL doing something, but Maple Leafs, you get an F. You can't give up on a goaltender like that, and I don't know what you saw in Pogie, but nobody else saw it. So, out of the NHL, let's kick the Maple Leafs out of the NHL. All right, who's with me? We just want those jerseys.
All hands up.
Did we get all the categories out there?
I think we did. I think we're ready to take a peek at redrafting the 2005 NHL Draft. Oh, yeah.
Before we draft Crosby first, do we spitefully fuck the Pittsburgh Penguins over and make him second? Is there anybody else you could see at number 1 for the Penguins at this time? We already have Marc-Andre Fleury. And Evgeny.
We did miss. We forgot about.
Oh, these guys!
Yeah, we forgot about talking about the Detroit Red Wings.
What did they do, man?
It was a pretty big draft year. You pick up Darren Helm, who's going to be a part of the 2007-2008 Stanley Cup run. Abdelkader tries to help out in 2008 and 2009. And still, Jakob Kindl, you get 331 games played out of that guy. And think about the difference between, what did we just say the Florida Panthers got from their entire draft camp, and Jakob Kindl gets 10 times as many games played.
Yeah, so, good point. As bad as, Kindl was, Florida would have taken him over all their draft picks. Yeah. How about that?
And who knows where his career goes when you're surrounded by,
Floridians.
Exactly. But yeah, still affecting the Red Wings to this day is this draft, and will be for a couple more years for Mr. Abdelkader and his wonderful contract that our beloved Ken Holland left for us, and for poor Steve. But this draft, you could make the argument, is affecting the Red Wings and helped us get as low as we are now, and will affect us for the next few years. Unfortunately, it has to be said, and good on Abdelkader and his agent for locking up that deal. But goddamn, if that's not going to be one of the worst things Ken Holland did as a GM in his entire career, and it's connected to this draft, so almost something we completely,
We talked about Datsyuk's agent on Twitter being Hockey Agent 1. The way that Abdelkader's agent finagled this coffin deal, this mortgage for the Detroit Red Wings, I would be surprised to find out, his Twitter handle is the real Hockey Agent number 1, because that was an amazing just ripoff of the Illich's money. Excellent job by that guy. Woo!
Owns Holland's ass. All right. All right, back to the 2005 NHL Draft. Mike, as you ruined my momentum before, I ruined your momentum as you were talking about. Is there anybody that you pick at number 1 besides Sidney Crosby?
There is no skater that can hold a candle to Crosby. Arguably in the last 15 years, let alone in this draft. So the argument becomes...
Well, Connor McDavid can... he's...
I don't know. I'd still take Sid.
That's the thing that comes up now. Like, they do those player polls, and they say, if you had to build a team now,
would you pick Lafreniere or Crosby?
It's like, I don't even think it's 50-50. So to make your argument is players still pick Crosby over McDavid, and it's probably because of, there's actually Stanley Cups that, Crosby gets to stack up, and McDavid has a bunch of teams that he's helped garner more first picks. So, I should say more lottery picks. I shouldn't say first picks. But that's definitely an easy argument to make for Crosby to be better than McDavid. Is just, from the get-go, so you talk a couple years after he's drafted, he's going up against the Red Wings in the Stanley Cup Finals. So how do you argue that McDavid through few years now.
I can't make that argument.
Exactly.
Well, let me ask you this then, because I know you kind of alluded to it earlier. There's no skater that you would take over Crosby. Is there any argument to be made in hindsight, doing a redraft in hindsight with Carey Price? Obviously, it does not work for the Penguins because they've already committed to Andre Fleury. This isn't an Andrew Raycroft situation, fucking Maple Leafs. So, obviously, they're not going to do it. But would another team at number one be able to maybe justify Carey?
I mean, sure, yeah, like the Detroit Red Wings, who were, at the top of their game at that time and were juggling goaltenders after Hasek left, and eventually he comes back. Osgood's jumping around the league, and eventually he comes back. But, I mean, yeah, Carey Price at, like, league minimum. Yeah, let's lock it up. Let's do it. No, I think that's how you make that argument. I will die on that hill. Drafting a goalie in the top 10 I just don't see it working out, and I think Carey Price is a great example. You could be as happy as you want to be as a Montreal Canadiens fan. You can have all your Carey Price jerseys. You can have a jersey that actually has his salary number on it instead of his actual number. But I just... You get a goalie that's listed as a superstar from the get-go, and I think this is what you're doomed to be, is a team that... look at the Vancouver Canucks, and even though they didn't draft Roberto Luongo, they bring Roberto over, they give him all that money, and then they have a star goaltender, and even though they make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they were so close, the city burns down the next day because they go down to the Boston Bruins. So I just...
Yeah, it feels like so many goaltenders too, like, they'll improve once they get traded. You know what I mean? Like, most of the time there's like a little bit of a hot potato before they figure it out, or there'll be somebody who just gets on a hot streak. So it's so hard to say that even with Carey Price, who's excellent, he has not made as much of a positive impact as Crosby on his team.
Well, then you take a look at like the LA Kings, and they were trading away goaltender prospects for years to other teams because they just kept drafting goaltenders, even though they had quick winning Stanley Cups. And they, that's kind of the way to do it. So you don't want to do it the way the Red Wings are doing it, where they have 0 goaltender prospects that we could maybe count on one day. Like, you just kind of look at that list and you go, well, that guy's too old. This guy keeps getting sent down to the ECHL. So is there really any talent there, or are we just hoping that one day it catches fire? And then, you've also got the stories like Jordan Binnington in the St. Louis Blues, where he gets called up and the Blues go on a historic run and then win the Stanley Cup. And then Binnington, not having a Vezina caliber season this season. So, I mean, it's such a toss-up. I think what's better is to have your goalie turn into a superstar after they win the cup, and just have a couple of guys in your system that you can try and roll the dice on, because it's so tough. We were just talking Jimmy Howard a couple of episodes ago because he got drafted, and his numbers career-wise, you're not going to play the eyeball test and go, Jimmy Howard is just as good as Carey Price. But, I mean, I'm talking from, like, sheer success from, like, wins and things like that. Like, you got to build a team around him, and if you can have a shitball like Jimmy Howard, be surrounded by superstar talent like Nicholas Lidstrom and Pavel Datsyuk and Zetterberg, he was in the conversation a couple of seasons where I remember we were trying to rework the rules for Rookie of the Year, and people writing major articles about why Jimmy Howard can't win or why he should win and things like that, because he came out and like kicked the door in. And same thing with Mrazek too. But I just, you know what? The story of Jimmy Howard and how we had to absolutely stop playing Chris Osgood and play Jimmy Howard, and then we absolutely had to stop playing Jimmy Howard and play Peter Mrazek. Like that's right there is the perfect example of how wishy-washy goaltenders and the stories can be, and how quick you can go it's it's not a game I'm willing to play when I have a top 10 draft pick, because to me it seems like your top forwards are going to help define your team more, even though your goaltender's out there for 60 minutes. I just think the whole game is more important of what's in front of that goaltender, and the New York Islanders are a great example of that, than not only your strategy, your defenseman in front. I don't know. I'm still rambling. We got to jump back into our draft here. But ultimately, no, I'm not taking Carey Price at number 1. Never, ever, ever. And I think the Penguins wouldn't either, right? I mean, they took Marc-Andre Fleury, but they're not gonna go, well, there's another superstar talent in Carey Price here, because they're hopefully counting on Marc-Andre Fleury to jump in.
All right. I agree. I mean, there's not really a dispute. But the skaters are going to make more of an impact. You can kind of hide a terrible goalie with defensemen. And then if you score enough goals, it doesn't matter how crappy your goalie is. So you can get away with it. The Red Wings have issues because we can't score goals, so we don't have defensemen, so we can't play that game. But the focus should not be to get a goaltender. It's you got to fix these other areas. So, Matt, I think Crosby, I don't even know if we want to go like you first, me first, because it's Crosby is number 1. So it's not even one of us picking. We could start with number 2. Matt, you want to help out the Ducks here?
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna take Carey Price. No,
I would never take him 1, but number 2.
Right. Yeah, number 2. Anybody? No, this is easy peasy. Anze Kopitar coming over to the Ducks. They're looking for some winger help. This is easy as pie. But you got Anze Kopitar coming in. I know you've got a great two-way center coming in. I don't know how you turn that away, like if you have the crystal ball and you're playing this game. And the Ducks, arguably, they're coming a couple seasons off after the Jean-Sebastien Giguère years. So I think in their heads, they're probably still thinking, we're cool. We're good on goaltending. And, all that combined. Let's keep building up the forward list here. And Anze Kopitar, number 2.
All right.
Actually, I didn't. You've got the two-way forward, but also 950 points. You got leadership, bringing in some Stanley Cups for the Kings too. So 106.5 point share, which puts him at the number 3 player on this draft for bringing points to your team.
Well, that means I get my first official pick here. Helping out Carolina, they took Jack Johnson, who just never really panned out, as a top pick.
Good friends. Good friends with Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, I mean he's a Penguin now, I believe.
Yeah, that's how he got that job.
I'm not gonna give them a defenseman. The way these guys, I don't know if I want to give them Keith Yandel. I'm gonna go a different route for them. Because they originally drafted Jack, who never really panned out. It seemed like they kept him for a while, and they kept waiting for him to pan out. Right? Too many pans in that sentence. I'm gonna give him a guy who came flying out of the gate. We're gonna give him the 3rd best center in this draft. We're gonna give him Paul Stastny. Because as far as Johnson, he came out of the gate slow. He went into the second lap slow, and then the 3rd lap he was still at the same kind of pace. Stastny came out firing, man. He wasn't part of that great Ovechkin, Crosby Rookie of the Year talk because he took an extra year to get started for Colorado originally. Yeah. But hot out of the gate, his first couple seasons, he's getting 78, 71 points. So I think Carolina would be a lot happier to get a guy who, was up for awards. He was contributing on the stat sheet. And you didn't have to wait for it. He came out ready to roll. So give me Stastny for Carolina. Let's get some points on the board instead of a below average replacement level defenseman.
All right. Well, I'm jumping in here with the Minnesota Wild, Benoit Pouliot. This is going to be kind of funny because I think I'm going to put the Minnesota Wild in a terrible position here for the next 15 years. Poor Montreal Canadiens, or you know what? Maybe good for them. Let's see what happens here because I'm going to jump in here and move Carey Price, who we've talked about already. Oh boy,
Matthew.
Over to Minnesota. They had the opportunity to take him and they didn't. I'm not saying. All right, I just want to have more fun with this. I mean, Carey Price, like I said, it's tough for me to make the argument that you are going to take a top 10 goalie, but the point share is there, and I think one of the problems that Minnesota has had in regards to like getting notice from the NHL is having those superstars that they can point back to. Because even when they picked up Parise and Suter, it's like those two guys just disappeared. So I want Minnesota to have like some star power that brings them some notice. Do the Montreal Canadiens need star power to bring them notice? No. What they do is they bring in superstars, and then the French Canadian media hates them and then kills them. So let's see who. Let's see what the Minnesota media actually does to Carey Price, because I do like this idea of trying to make Minnesota more noteworthy. But you get a game changer. I mean, I still hate goalies in the top 10, but I also just didn't want you to take Carey Price at number 5.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
No problem.
At number 6, Columbus did take Gilbert Brule, who it just sounds like a bowl of cold beet soup. They eventually did pick a goalie at 173 or so, and the need is there. And honestly, Matt, at number 5, I was going to do a draft buster, and I was going to take this guy at 5. But instead, he's going to go number 6. Matt? We took Kopitar, so the Kings are fucked right now. They lose one of their best players early in the draft, and they lose another one here because Jonathan Quick, a two-time Stanley Cup winning goalie,
nice.
He's going to number 6. He's going to Columbus.
Wait, why are we skipping Montreal?
I thought you just picked for Montreal. Oh my God, Matt, for Montreal, they get Jonathan Quick, so they go from one Hall of Famer to the other.
I was like, all right, I like it. I like Jonathan. Like, so they still get their goalie, and then you just threw him on over to Columbus. I was like,
whoops. Oh my goodness, he went by so fast he skipped a draft slot. So Jonathan Quick, he's gonna go to Montreal. We know the Canadiens are gonna be excited to wear Quick jerseys instead of Price. A pretty easy transition, more goaltending excellence, another 5-letter name. You could make the argument, I think, that you're getting an improvement playoff-wise. So I don't think anybody's going to be too upset. Career to career, they're almost identical, except one has championships, one does not. So, Matt, give me Quick all day. There you go. Now you get to actually pick for Columbus instead of me, who jumped the gun.
Oh man, I really couldn't wait to take Jonathan Quick. No, I'm gonna stick with the direction that Columbus was going in. We're gonna give them some forward help, and this is a name that surprisingly hasn't really come up yet. Not even taken in the first round, but the Colorado Avalanche do get Paul Stastny. And he actually played in the WCHA in Denver, so they had a lot of time to take a look at Paul Stastny. This is probably why they picked him up.
I just picked Stastny.
Oh, I'm not. See, I'm trying to take notes right now on who's going where, and you're not taking your goddamn notes because I'm not listening to you. All right, so Stastny's off the board. God damn it! You got to type up who you're taking.
Stastny went to the Canes, Matt. Because
Shit, now I gotta reset. Alright, fine. Well, this has very little
Minnesota
thought behind
Vikings, missed picks. Yeah, but go ahead.
Let's go TJ Oshie, I guess. Jesus, this feels so stupid now. I'm just gonna take the next center on the board. 567 points. starts winning some cups with Washington. Yeah, why not? He's got those awesome shootout skills, so that'll come into play in a couple years. TJ Oshie, god damn it, I feel like such a fucking tool right now.
That's okay. We both did it. One team missed their pick. The next team tried to pick somebody who was already picked. This draft has just been bananas after Crosby. You never know what's going to happen. So that brings us to Chicago. Matt, there's a part of me that, again, wants to pick spitefully to crater the Chicago Blackhawks, especially because we know what's coming for them in the next year or two, where they're going to get their pillars for the future. Instead, I'm not going to be that spiteful. I'm going to give him a pretty consistent wing. Matt, give me James Neal. His apex was, my God, what a career this guy had. His apex, he also had a cup of coffee with Pittsburgh there. He didn't get to enjoy the gravy years with the Cups, but, you're not going to be upset about getting a guy who gets a 81-point season. His at age 24. Drafted by Dallas, but his best seasons, were in Pittsburgh statistically. That's when he got his All-Star games. I don't know. We're getting deep into this draft. We've got the top guys off the board. Neal's just consistent, but I wouldn't say he's going to turn around the Blackhawks. And making this pick, I think they're still going to be in shape to draft their pillars in the next year and two.
Well, I'm ready to help the Sharks out because we've been watching them struggle. Almost winning Stanley Cups 2 years ago. It's heartbreaking to watch. It really is. Poor Joe Thornton, and now his career is pretty much done. And one of the issues that they've always run into is goaltending. And I realize that I'm not a hypocrite for taking Carey Price, because it actually turned out well. So when I talk about not drafting a goaltender, it's because you don't know if it's going to turn out well. So this is why I'm taking another goaltender in the top 10. I'm actually all right, I'm making the pivot right now. I'm all right, this is why it makes sense. Because if you knew Tuukka Rask was going to be great, you don't wait and take him, in the third or fourth round because Matt said don't draft a goalie in the top 10. You don't draft a goalie in the top 10 just like in the real world. But when you've got that crystal ball and you can help the San Jose Sharks actually have a goaltending solution and maybe win a cup and poor old Joe Thornton, which, you know what? You think about this, Mike. If I do this, the Sharks are probably knocking out the Red Wings, and we don't get all of our fanfare in, I believe that would be 08-09, at least making it to the Stanley Cup final, not winning. Or was it 07-08 that we played the Sharks? I'm trying to remember. Anyway, we're probably getting eliminated by them now that they have Tuukka Rask, but fuck it, let's help out the Sharks. Why not? Tuukka Rask going... And again, the argument I'm making is I am talking out of both sides of my mouth here in regards to taking another goaltender. And now Carey Price, Jonathan Quick, and Tuukka Rask have all been drafted in the top 10. But if you can guarantee that you're getting Tuukka Rask, yeah, do it. I'm just saying you can't always guarantee it.
There you go. That brings us to the final top 10 pick.
Nope. We got a number 9 and then a number 10.
For me, I get. I should have added that caveat there. Matt, if you had a choice, would you take Ray Emery or Ben Bishop?
Ben Bishop?
Well, let me double check here because I think I might have fucked this up again. This might be our most discombobulated draft
Are you
this
drafting
year.
Ray Emery in a year that he's not eligible to be drafted?
No, Ottawa already had Ray Emery.
Oh.
They had a pretty stacked roster because they were actually getting a lot of points in 2005. The one spot I think they could use some help is at goaltender.
Jesus.
You could make the argument that they get Keith Yandel, who You know, had an opportunity to be our Datsyuk diamond in the rough winter. I know he was really clamoring to get that. But you get, we're going Ben Bishop. We're giving them the 6'7" monster.
Man, I'm glad I opened up this draft with 10 minutes on not taking goaltenders in the top.
That's 10. What we do. That's the specialty of the discussion 5. We like talking out of both sides of our mouth. Bishop, he had a couple good seasons there. Pretty solid for Tampa. He didn't really do anything for St. Louis, who gave up on him after just 2 seasons. He played 13 games for them. He got most of his magic in Tampa as an all-star. The Vezina votes, the Hart votes, all that stuff. And then he's kind of had a little bit of a resurgence with Dallas.
Absolutely.
So I think that this is a long-term plan. I don't know why St. Louis and Ottawa kind of punted on him, but Tampa Bay, run by Mr. Yzerman, definitely saw something in this guy. So he's going to Ottawa. He's going to help them out. I hope they give him a chance over Emery.
Yzerman was still playing hockey at this point.
Well, no, I mean, when he's assessing them in 2014, 15, 16. Those were prime Lightning years, you son of a bitch. But, man, you get the 10th pick. You get to close this out for Vancouver.
So this is fun. This is why I thought Stastny hadn't been picked yet, because I thought it was for sure Keith Yandle going at number 3, so I just stopped listening. And now Keith Yandle made it all the way to number 10, because that's where he's getting picked up. But, Yandle was one of those guys that I remember every offseason reading the articles about, are the Red Wings going to trade for Keith Yandle? And always, then I'm keeping an eye on when his contract is expiring. I wanted this guy to be a Red Wing so goddamn bad. I don't even know, because he's easily a top 4 defenseman. It's a harder discussion for a top 2. But at a number 10 pick and a career top 4 defenseman, I think this is an easy pick for Keith Yandle. Vancouver Canucks, huge upgrade over Luke Bourdon. But I just remember having you get those crushes on players that they don't really add up. Like, why wouldn't I sit there at the same point in Keith Yandle's career and go, man, I wish we had Zdeno Chara. Like, why wasn't I saying that? Or like Brent Burns. But no, I was like, it's like, I was a chubby kid in high school. So I always had crushes on the girls that were like, in my league. I didn't, you know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, we can get Keith. We're not going to get Zdeno Chara, but we can get Keith Yandle. So I had a Keith Yandle crush. I always thought that was possible for the Wingdings. But now he's a Vancouver Canuck, so let's maybe it'll be more possible for the Red Wings to pick him up. All right, Mike, that was the absolute worst draft we've ever done. Forgetting who we drafted.
We took a week off last week. We got to get back on the bike. So next week will be our best episode ever. Now
we should set up this draft before we do it instead of just rolling it off the cuff. We do all this research for each draft year, and then all we have to do is set up. Well, if Mike takes this guy, then I'm taking this guy at number 3, and that's all we have to do. And we don't do any of it. We don't. And that whole time that you were taking Stastny at 3, I was trying to find Minnesota's goaltenders so that when I took Carey Price, I could make the argument that it made sense. And then I just couldn't get, my internet wasn't working, so I couldn't get the page to load up, and then I just took them anyway. So this is basically...
We'll get them next week.
Yeah, this always turns into more of a ranking instead of, who are we helping out. But, everybody, next week we are going to be talking... our top 6 or 7 guys coming into the NHL draft once we know where the Red Wings are drafting, and we're gonna do it through Chell 20. We're gonna take 5 years of simulations and see who's actually had a great career. I'll give you a hint: Lafreniere was drafted by me, so he had quite a great career over 5 years. But we'll take a look at everybody else, and I got this idea, Mike, because Stutzel showed up in my Stanley Cup Finals, And he was on the 4th line of the team that I was playing. So after 5 years, he hadn't made it past the 4th line. So we'll get into those statistics and more next week's episode. So we'll have a better idea where Stevie's drafting. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll do a better job with the 2006 draft. All right, bye, everybody. Hi everybody, this is Matt Klink of the Brothers of Discussion, reminding you that you can find the Brothers of Discussion at bodpodcast.com, brothersofdiscussion.com. Find us on Twitter at bodpodcast, and of course we are bringing you content every Thursday, if not during every Monday Night Raw, every NXT show, every AEW Dynamite, every SmackDown, every pay-per-view, every major show happening in the United States. The Brothers of Discussion are covering it, so if you want good wrestling coverage, come to the Brothers of Discussion. Thanks, everybody.